Welcome to the Real Estate Power Play Podcast, your launch pad for skyrocketing success in real estate investing. I'm your host, Gabe Rodarte, alongside Mark Monroe. We're ready to bring you transformative stories, groundbreaking strategies, and the insider secrets of real estate giants. Get ready to accelerate your investment journey and become a true power player in the world of real estate. What's happening? Welcome to the Real Estate Power Play Podcast, where we bring to you awesome guests that just can help you level up your business and grow your real estate investing world and dynamic as you get deeper and deeper into the space. Guys, today we have some awesome friends of mine and great guests, Brad and Heather. They are some really cool friends of mine. You guys, we're just going to have a blast today as we go through the show and just interview them, talk to them, what they're doing, how they're growing their business in the commercial space, how they're getting creative in the commercial space with different financing strategies and different types of asset classes that they've been working on that I get really excited over. So we're going to jump into the show now. Guys, how you been?
Great. How you been, Gabe?
Awesome. Can't wait
You
to
guys
see
been
you.
fantastic. And you guys are on the West Coast. So why don't you share a little bit about what's happening in your world right now, just as far as your space and the world and.
You want to go? Want to go? All right. So I'm Brad. It's Heather. We're over here in just south of Seattle, Washington, so Gig Harbor, Washington. And right now, our sole focus is we're chasing down a rather large industrial commercial property that has been a wild ride. I mean, every day is something different. Yesterday was a down day. Today is an up day. And so, it's always a new challenge. But, that's our focus is this industrial property right now that we're trying to hunt it down and drag it to the ground.
We kind of went from all over. So we just finished up a residential flip a little while ago, and then we've done multifamily rentals, Airbnbs, stuff like that. Puts money in the bank account, but I think the real payday is commercial.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're chasing.
Got it. And so a lot of the people that listen to this, for you listeners, you're coming from a place where you have done many of single family stuff, or maybe you've done some flips or wholesale deals or, B&B, sub-twos. We still do sub-two seller financing. That's what Mary Lou does all the time.
And to be fair, for folks listening, we were not real estate people, quote unquote, until maybe about 2 years ago. And, we're IT freaks. We came out of careers in IT, still do have an IT business, but it's really, real estate is just very creative, fascinating. There's always something new. The landscape's always changing. You're always meeting new people. And so it really is this very attractive space that we have found. You really meet just an eclectic group of people, but with very similar goals. So it's just such a cool field, but it is challenging. Fun, but challenging.
Fun, but challenging. So that's interesting. I don't know how many people we have that's been on the show. I mean, we're probably at 120 episodes now that's come from an IT type of setup and format. What got you guys into doing this? How did you find this out of the stuff that you've been doing?
For me, it was my side hustle. So I was in IT, been in it for 20 years. We had $100 million book of business that we maintained every single year over 20 years. And it just got mundane. And I needed something creative to do. I needed something to challenge me and challenge my brain and make money. So for me, that was my outlet.
Awesome. And so when you did that, Heather, was that some people just drive right towards, well, I went on vacation, I'm going to buy an Airbnb while I'm over there and just kind of play around with that because it's a side hustle, or was it more of a flip world, or what was what was your choice of asset and what type?
So I had a girlfriend that was a real estate agent, top producing real estate agent in Seattle, Washington. And she saw us making a lot of money and she was like, hey, stop being stupid. Put your money, your money to use. Here's what you need to do. And so she kind of forced my hand to get me into multifamily. I didn't particularly want to do it, but she was like, you can do anything for a year, right? Like, yep, I can do anything for a year. I can have shitty tenants for a year. I can deal with all the bullshit. I can do anything for a year, not a problem. So that's what I did. And once I got into it, I'm like, this is easy. Like, this is not a challenge. It's actually really easy. Got cash flow. I was able to put my mother in my rental and have her live cash free,
Oh, that's awesome.
rent free. Yeah, which to me, that's fulfillment, right? Like being able to
Right.
provide back to my family. So I was able to do that, and then 4 or 5 years into that, everything's great. Then the pandemic hit, and all the moratoriums and all of that stuff came along. It's like,
Get it.
you know what, this is kind of BS, right? Like, I have to still pay my mortgage and people should still have to pay their rent.
Right.
So I had to deal with all that. And so I kind of started selling them off a little bit.
Got it.
Kept a couple that my family members lived in. And just kind of decided at that time that I wanted to refocus on other assets.
That's
that
awesome.
make more sense. Yeah. So
Awesome. And Brad, you came in from IT. How'd you pick this, or is it because of you met Heather, or how'd that work?
It's sort of a little
Tiki bar, maybe?
It's a I like the plug, Gabe. And yes, at our next meeting, we already are planning a gathering at the Tiki Bar. No, my story's a little different. So like I sold surgical implants and instruments, spine implants for a number of years, and then exited that career to start a software company. Which as an entrepreneur, you start a business, it can be a rather lonely road. And certainly I would imagine for a lot of the folks like listening who have a very entrepreneurial spirit, like it can be very lonely. Like you're by yourself, you're chasing this dream. And so oftentimes you think, am I the crazy one? Like you're a tribe of one. And so a friend of mine who knew that I was trying to exit the software company and sell it, which I'm in the process of doing now, which is a whole other thing. He's like, you really need to come to this commercial real estate group and meet some of my friends. Like, you would love this. Like, it's your tribe, it's your people. Come check it out. And so I went with him about 2 years ago to Orlando, actually. And it was like for the first time in 20 years, you get amongst these people who I don't like the word like dreamer, because dreamer, people attach like bad connotations to it. Like, oh, you're a dreamer, you're just not doing anything. It's not that. It was people who have these visions, have these dreams, and they're actually chasing them down. And you can sit and talk like, I sat and talked with these people just about business and life for like hours. And suddenly you realize, at least for me, and this is why I'm here, is there are a lot more people like you out there. They just sort of hang out in these sometimes hard to find places. And so once I got amongst that group, I was like, this is where I want to be. Like, these are the people I want to spend my time with. Like, I want to chase dreams with these people on a grind, like win, lose. And so it wasn't really like a choice of, oh, I think I'll go off into this career. It was like finding my tribe of people that we can go hunt with. And so like I love it. I love meeting these new people. Like I love not like being a tribe of one. And you really have, like, I have certainly learned the past 2 years, like you go so much further with like-minded people than you will by yourself ever. So that's how I ended up here. And then Heather and I, it just coincidentally, we lived like 45 seconds apart and saw each other on Facebook in our commercial real estate group. And we're like, what the heck? You live in Get Carver? Like, yeah, where do you live? Oh my gosh, that's 45 seconds. Like, and then we realized we'd already met at a barbecue like a couple months earlier. And so
Awesome.
Forgotten, didn't know.
Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute, I think I know you. We've met before, like somewhere. And again, like going back to that whole tribe thing is, I think one of the most important lessons is like figure out what you suck at, because we all are not good at certain things. Like we're not the best at everything. I certainly have learned what I suck at. And when we met for coffee and started working together, I'm like, wait a minute, like you're really good at the things I suck at.
And I'm awful at this.
Yeah, not all of it. No, like you're great at it.
There are certain things like,
Yeah, okay.
you're really good at, and
Okay,
I'm awful,
thank you.
and I totally understand it.
But it was it was like
That's
complimentary. And so, yeah, so now we've been chasing this down for about the past year and a half. And it has been a wild ride, like crazy. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, one of the things we talk about is the who, not how, right? Of like who's
huge.
the who. And it's really tough to do if you are in single family right now and you're doing stuff that Mark and I just recorded a podcast yesterday, and he's my partner on the podcast. And we're just really talking about how if you are doing single family, it's tough to go out there on your own. So find your tribe of people. What's
Yeah.
interesting is that when we talk about commercial, you have to have a tribe of people. It's really tough to do the business at all single-handedly. And honestly, some of the assets that we look at, guys, are from I would say an older generation than mine, maybe 65 and older, who have single-handedly done it. And they're now older and they have a very small tribe or just their family, no one left over to really help their business grow or anything else. It's just them. And those are what we call the mom and pop, right? So those are the mom and pop distressed owners, or whatever that is. Paperwork looks like a big binder for
This is
those.
literally, I mean, this, like, Gabe, you're 1000% accurate. Like, this is a binder of 3 years of bank statements that Heather and I have been spending days going through trying to figure out like what this owner did. And they have had this property for 40 years. They're
Right.
tired. They handed it off to one of their children who doesn't want to manage it. And so we are solving this puzzle very painstakingly. And so you need people
To
like,
mention with a business partner who is also in his 70s, who behaves the same way and doesn't
It's
actually.
so you're right. You have to have a tribe because you can't do this alone. It's just too much.
What is something to kind of tag on to that? What is something that you can say, since let's say we just go back 2 years of kind of like re-engineering your thought process of how deals are done? Heather, what you've seen from the past, Brad, what you've seen in business. What is like an addition to that you can share with the audience of how maybe to approach that? It seems like you guys, it was one of those really coincidences, those divine things where you got somebody right around the corner. But what about if you don't have someone right around the corner, right, that you just happen to run into at a barbecue? I love the story because it's an awesome story. But for those who might not have that, what would you
I think you need to
encourage
find
them?
it. I think that you shouldn't go at it alone. I think you need to find your person, your people. I think you need to find somebody. We're not all great at everything. And if we think we are, then we're ignorant. You have to find your people and your tribe, even if it doesn't present you in the face like it did with us.
Yeah. Literally, because it was your face on Facebook.
Literally, it was like a punch in the face.
It's literally a
It's
face.
all good. It worked. It worked.
Sometimes we're not all that lucky, but you have to seek it out. Like, we are not all great at all the things. And I think it takes some digging deep to figure out like what we know we're not good at. And then seek that out, find great partnerships with people that you can trust. And that's one of the things that we learned. We actually had a 3-way partnership initially with
Another business partner.
Yeah, another business partner, and it went wildly rogue.
It's still in process, but I think like what Heather is definitely getting at is like partners are incredibly important. You need a tribe, but like spend a lot of time
That you trust.
Yeah, spend a lot of time like getting to know those people before you get so excited that you just jump right in, start throwing money at projects. Like, you do need to figure out who they are and like really figure that out. And then on top of that, and like this sometimes comes across cold. We are all friends until we're not. And so you have to have a good operating agreement. You have to discuss all those items and put it on paper, because things happen, people change, like deals go bad, deals go well, and so in that, like, we're so excited, friend stage, talk about all that stuff, get it into an operating agreement. Do not fly solo without having it on paper. It will cause problems, so just figure that piece out. But
yeah, guys, so we talk with a lot of people, and the people that I talk with, this is a scary topic. This is actually the scary part. It's easy to say, hey, go to a networking event, go to a mastermind, meet some people, try to find your tribe, connect with people that you're going to be in. I mean, it's kind of that thing of like, hey, where are you going to find the perfect spouse, right? And like, is it going to be over here? Is it going to be over there? Like, what is it going to be, the librarian place, or are you going to be, we're a big soccer family, so it's going to be like, okay, so are you going to like, do you want someone to be involved in soccer? Because if you're always at the soccer field, obviously that's going to be something that's a staple. Like, there's these things that happen, so it's easy for us to have that conversation of, we'll go to a networking event, go to a mastermind, start connecting with other people. I do see though that because of social media, if people are using it for a tool, it's actually fairly simple to know who you align with and who you don't align with. You can look through someone's stuff and go, you know what, we have a lot of similarities. Whenever we used to do, or we'd go to like a Tony Robbins thing, and Heather was there, right? And like, okay, we have a lot of similarities. We can have conversations over lunches, over other things besides just a business transaction that we're involved in together. So those type of things are really key to give people just an idea of what else to look for.
Okay.
What's that?
I said, no, I'm going to agree and also disagree. So the social media thing is like, the social media thing is like, we all try to put our face for. Yeah, that's right.
All right, here we go, everybody.
You invited us here. Always the contrarian. No, so like social media is one of those things, like we all, or some of us all, like use it as a tool. We want to put our best foot forward. We want to attract good business partners. We want to attract good deals. And that is one thing, but you really have to get to know a person, because let's say, for example, you do a deal and now there's a couple $100,000 sitting in the bank account, and one person falls into financial dire and they really need their portion. But your CPAs aren't finished yet, but they have access to the bank account. So they just take that money and they just say, well, I need it. Like, what do you do then? Right? Their Facebook profile could have been all of these amazing things and they've got deals, but situations change. And that's where it really has to come down to, hey, I really like you. I think we'd be great partners. But we're going to have to talk about some things, like, here's how I run business. Like, here are some concerns that I really want to put into an operating agreement. And for the love of God, I know attorneys are expensive. You have to involve them. Like, it's it's a part of the business.
We're working on a 2-month agreement right now. We're on our second month on an agreement of a pretty big transaction that we're working on. And it's just simple, basic stuff. But one attorney goes out of town for a week, and then, once their attorney's done, my attorney decides to go out of town on the week after. And I'm like, it just all those things. We're out of town. We end up seeing each other. We go to these events and whatnot. That's part of the business, though. That's just something that we should be doing. If you are listening to this as looking at JV and partnering with whatnot, it is something to take into consideration. One of the things I enjoy about real estate in general is that it doesn't have to be forever. And that's one of the things that I don't think that if people really understand. And so I just want to explain. So for those who are listening, it can be a case by case. We do a lot of JV deals, especially in the Houston metro area. That's a case by case. Someone brings us a deal and we say, okay, look, this is the agreement that we're going to have. And some of that's boilerplate point because we've done it for so long. That's pretty much what we do in many cases, where we just say, this is typical. If they bring a deal, or if they're going to run the construction crew, or if they're going to run another asset or aspect of the asset. And those things are pretty simple to do. It's when you get to some of these bigger operations. And again, if you're in a single family space, it's really tough to JV, or not to JV, but to have partnerships on something that has, I don't know, you're going to walk away 30, 40, 50K, and you split that 3 ways. It just becomes a lot of work for a little bit of cash. The fun part that I notice, guys, in commercial real estate is looking at it saying, one, the dinners are way better. Okay. We get to have a lot more fun. And they're normally at a different type of restaurant, and which is great. Better friendships, a lot more vision for the future, because these are assets that we're holding for 2, 3, 5, sometimes 7 years that we're looking at. So we're looking across the table going, can I handle you? Can we be with each other? Can I deal with your sense of humor for the next 5 years? Right? Like, that's the real case that we really need to be looking at. So that is pretty cool
too, about exiting, right? Like, well, first of all, don't rush it, right? Like take the time to set that foundation up with a good op agreement. Wait till your attorney gets back on vacation. So don't rush it. But I think you touched on something really important, which is know how you get out of the partnership. Like when it's done, how do you get out? How does everybody go their separate ways? That exit, start with an exit in mind. How do we accomplish this when we all want to go away?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
Let's go to some of the stuff you're doing now. So
we have to
right
go
now,
back to the social media thing.
She wants to revisit social.
oh, here we go. Social media, Heather. Here we go.
This is where we differ on our opinions.
Oh yeah, it's true. It's true.
Very true. So yes, developing relationships in person is important. We need to understand who we're dealing with and working with. However, we can't do that. I mean, we do that what, 4 times a year, 5 times a year, 6 times a year, maybe on tops, right? So Gabe and I mean, we hung out at Tony Robbins. We went and did that thing. We got really close. We had some great conversations, and now we interact mainly on social, right? Or text.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I haven't even actually met your wife, but we're friends and I love her and I think she's lovely. And now I know everything about you and your family. And that gives me confidence in who I'm talking to and who I want to work with, right? So it still is important.
It's true.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I mean, I built my relationship. And so
Okay.
what people don't know is that we still do run it. It's North Houston Real Estate Investors. It's one of the largest networking groups in North Houston. And, we would have 300 people in a room and have a great time. And some of you that are listening used to show up to these events. And that's when I really learned the power of networking. I knew I was a relationship person and I enjoyed relationships, but I didn't know the power of the network and the power of what are you presenting? How are you speaking to people? What are you putting your best foot forward on? There'd be times that I didn't put my best foot forward. I thought I was, and then you have someone going, you could have done this, and and you're getting that feedback to always hone down that skill, which is why we do what we do now. So when we started this podcast, there was 4 guys, and we're all in different states, and we met each other just once.
Mm-hmm.
So one was in Michigan, upstate New York. I think you guys know Marty.
Good Danny, the Grizz.
Yeah, you know Marty. And then Mark Monroe, he's in Boca, Florida, and then Houston, Texas. And so what's fun is that we can be all over the place. And then once a year now, Mark, or maybe twice, whenever I go to Orlando for the different events that we do, I end up going down and hanging out with him for a couple of days. But the point is, with the dynamics of what we're doing in the marketplace we're in, and because it's commercial, it's really like I'm shopping all throughout the Southeast now. And I think that's so powerful to help people understand is like, you don't just have to be in your own backyard anymore, because now you have strong relationships with people. I can't tell you how many times I have FOMO over however many freaking events that you guys have and hanging out with your friends. I'm like, these people are hanging out with my friends, and then there's always food and freaking good times and laughs. And if you ever hang out with these people, you ever have a chance.
That's the social media part. Yeah, she's very good at it. It's like,
they're like, this is the everyone smile.
Yeah, like, why do we have to take so many pictures? She's like, it's for the socials. I'm like, fine.
Oh yeah.
She's good. I hate every part of it, but
and it's key though, right? Like there's aspects of here that I think people need to see to all of our businesses, that it helps to get reach. So if you're listening to this and you're trying to figure out how to get started, get going, or you have a business that's already going and you need to find your tribe, these are key areas to be just taken into consideration. Of look at different platforms. And what's interesting is that nowadays, if you join any platform, like you're on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you're at, the algorithms are pretty good nowadays where they can kind of link you up. You're almost getting matchmaked with the type of groups that you're researching already, right? Of like, oh, I'm looking for a commercial group. Okay, well, now everybody's pinging you, right? And so there's stuff like that too, and you can do your own sifting and stuff. What is
authentic, right? Like you can't come at it from a fake approach, right? Like you have to be authentic in your approach, and you have to actually want to get to know people and authentically work with them and do right by them and yourself. If it's fake, you'll get sniffed out and you'll be done. Yeah,
I like that. Yeah, especially in commercial, because they can sniff out. You can sniff out a lot in commercial. It's kind of hard to know everything by faking. let's go to the you guys mentioned about some of the properties that you guys are looking for, what you guys are doing now, the asset class. Let's dive into commercial. So what asset class do you guys like, are you digging into? Are you loving that you found in just the commercial space?
Right now, we are loving industrial. We have an industrial building under contract that we are working heavily on, which is all this stuff. So we like that.
We got dragged back into mobile home parks.
Mhm.
It was an asset class. We're like, we don't want to do it. But a good friend of ours, you actually know Diane Wadowski. What's up, Diane? If you're listening, she's a real one. They have just managed that asset class so well and found such great deals. And we've spent so much time with her and her husband Scott that we're like, okay, let's reconsider this. Let's partner with them maybe on some deals and see how it's managed. Because last thing I really want to do is in the middle of the night be in one of my mobile home parks collecting rent. I mean, that's the things I see in my head. I don't want to do that. And they always assure me like that's just not the case. That's not how it is. You don't have the experience, so we'll show you. And so that's an asset class that we've reconsidered. But small bay industrial, mobile home parks, and
Also looking at like land development. So we're trying to we have a piece of property under contract that we're trying to develop duplexes for.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, we might exit out of that one.
challenging.
Numbers don't exactly make sense with the build costs right now, but it's definitely something like building is of interest to us. In our particular area, we originally started looking at multifamily again, like big multifamily, but our laws are whack.
They're wild.
Yeah,
We can't
I can
increase
imagine.
rent, we can't, do anything. And so there's
Oh,
really
wow.
Can't
for us-
evict except for like a month, like 1 month in the year, and only if it's sunny. Can
Wow.
you? So it's very intense.
So I think there's a lot of people that are looking to sell them, but I mean, there's not a lot of upside there. So we're like, let's wait and see what happens there.
So you're at industrial, and then are these like that, just the kind of like, I've been through all types of industrial. Are these like the value add industrial that with the rusty side and you guys have to repaint it and do everything? Or is this something that's more newer, like a class A?
Maybe not so rusty, but we're gonna repaint them and we're gonna make them look nice.
Got
But
it.
basically the one that we're looking at, all of the tenants are basically paying half of market rent.
Yeah.
So
Wow, okay.
get under contract, double the rents. I mean, we could potentially exit with 5.
Wait a minute. When is this podcast being released? Hopefully after
Yeah.
close.
Right.
Is this live?
So yeah.
Oh no.
Oops.
That property is in Florida.
To help people understand what we're talking about is you have an asset that you guys are acquiring that has all the tenants are paying half of the market rent.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're going to have to do you have to do some work to these type of things to help them increase in value, the value add part, or is the value add part just basically increase in leases? How does that work?
The tenant mix is like these are such fun properties because it's like a puzzle.
We actually wouldn't have to do anything. That's
Yeah,
the question.
that
How
is
do
the-
we increase?
Well, and not having to do anything really depends on the tenant, right? So we looked at this tenant mix of this property. It's about 60,000 square feet, a little over. And we started looking at this deal months ago. And when we went through the rent roll, we're like, this is a great rent roll. It's a diverse selection of tenants. It's really geared towards supporting a lot of residential communities around the area. So you have a lot of services like plumbers and roofers,
Nice.
so like that tenant mix doesn't necessarily demand a lot of tenant improvements. So to answer your question,
Awesome.
if we close on this property, we don't have to build them the Taj Mahal of units for them to be able to run their plumbing business out of it. That's just not the case for this asset class and this tenant mix. And so that's one of the cool things about these deals is you really do have to learn what are the tenants doing? Like, how are they using this space? What do they want from it? And in this case, they just want a clean, secure area that they can run their business out of, 1,500 to 3,000 square feet. And that's really it. And so we don't have to do a lot of TIs.
Right.
But
And
the rent
TI
low.
is tenant improvements, right?
Correct. Yep.
Got it. That's one of the cool things that I like about industrial and in commercial in general is that you really broaden your view on the type of tenant you have. How are you creating revenue? right? And there's so many different levers to pull, but really you're becoming like, you need your tenants to be successful, right? And this isn't I need my tenant to pay rent so they can live somewhere, right? Or that they can, can they pay for the rent and keep the power on and feed the family, all that stuff. But this is more of businesses, a B2B type scenario where you want the businesses to be successful, right? You want to go in and say, what's the Google ads look like for the, or the Google reviews? Like, what do we have inside these buildings that are going to be long term? Because the longer term, the better the rents, the better the tenant, right?
Yeah. But
Um,
even during the due diligence piece, like that's where you have to get to know these tenants. So I think we looked at a retail strip mall one time, and we started it in one unit, and it wasn't a huge strip mall, but we went in, got a smoothie, chatted with the tenant. The smoothie was not awesome. I think if we would have closed on that, I would have given her smoothie advice. But then we went into the next one as a grocery store, and we're trying to look at stains in ceiling, and they thought I was the fire marshal, which was fun. Just tall random white guy. They're like, he must be from the fire department. And so,
Come on in.
and so they're like,
you,
come
you,
on
you
in.
pull that off pretty well. I would say that.
mean, maybe I need to shave the beard and just have a mustache, like a fireman mustache. But
Yeah, totally.
regardless, like you have to get to know these people, but that's also part of the cool piece is like you do get to know them. And even if they think you're from the fire department, you don't have to tell them that right up front. You can tell them that after you look at all their ceilings and fire hoods and all that.
Right.
But
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
so
and that's also kind of how we inadvertently met the owner of the property that we're
That's right,
buying
yeah.
by just walking around and asking questions and just talking to them, being like, hey, like, do you know what this thing was over here? And he's like, oh yeah, that was the tank that was in the ground 50 years ago that
What
got
kind of
pulled out.
tank?
We're
Oh,
like,
wow.
who are you? Are you a tenant? He's like, no, I'm the owner. We're like,
What? Yeah.
oh, great. Want to go get a beer?
Yep.
He's like, sure.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Literally how it happened.
Yeah, see, that is awesome. So you guys move to Washington if you're listening to this, because apparently there's a lot of coincidences that happen in Washington. You just show up, you have a business partner that's perfect. You have like properties just fall out of the sky. It's
Reindeer all
perfect.
Oh my
fire,
God,
Gabe.
Lindsay, if you're in a sunny place, stay there, please.
So we have an asset, we have industrial, you guys are doing a form of value add, and one of the major forms, which is seems like a no-brainer, is just increasing rents, providing some TI work, right?
Yep.
Some improvements, basically stopping the leaky pipes and leaking roofs and cleaning some other things up, especially if you're looking at like plumbing and other stuff that are just
Not even that. We're replacing one roof. We're going to re-gravel and we're going to paint. And
That's
that's it.
that's perfect.
Everybody else is happy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy an
Yeah.
excavator.
Maybe.
What's that?
I said this is part of our negotiation is I want a mini excavator.
Oh,
I'm like, to buy a mini excavator in this deal. They're cheap. Plus I'll spread the gravel when we
there
re-gravel.
you go. There you go. Save the cost. Save the cost. Have a fun time while you're doing it. Maybe grab a beer.
The listeners understand.
Yeah.
No,
I should definitely get an excavator.
we're not.
Sorry, this is a point of negotiation.
I see that. I see that. Okay, so now we have an asset class, industrial, like we were saying. What is something that you guys learned through this process of acquiring this property that you might be able to share with someone who's a little bit newer, maybe kind of nervous to squeeze the trigger on buying industrial?
How much time do we have?
Yeah.
Because I think we have like 3
So
pages of
we
single sheet
do.
notes.
So after every
Just
deal,
give us a few.
Yeah.
after every deal that we've had under contract, one of the things that we do is we go back and we write down everything that we learned.
Post-mortem.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we understood the lessons that we've learned. For this particular deal, when it was first brought to us, we had concerns based on teachings from our mentor, our joint mentor. We had concerns that there was a tank in the ground, a fuel tank in the ground. We were given an off-market deal from a broker, but he also had a competing offer from another company. And basically they came in and they gave $60,000 of earnest money, non-refundable. And they were asking us to match the offer. And we were like, we're not comfortable with that because we know there's a tank in the ground. Why would we give you $60,000 non-refundable earnest money when we don't even know what the current, environmental status is? So the other company did that. They took their offer, they gave it. We told them we had concerns with the issue with the tank. We had concerns with financing. We had concerns with the non-refundable earnest money. And leases, and we had a lot of concerns, and the broker kind of tried to make us sound like we were crazy for thinking all
Let's
these
just go.
things.
Let's just
And so we just kind of were like, you know what?
go for it.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be us.
It's take your other offer, like go for it. So basically he did. And on the 6th,
So that was like in November.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had 3 very specific things. We just said we weren't comfortable with it. This isn't our deal. We're not gonna rush this. And we didn't. And so they came back in like January. And they're like, hey, so are you still interested? The deal might be falling apart. And we're like, oh, weird.
Like,
Why? And it was literally the exact three
That's
things. We had been taught by, Scott, our mentor Scott, like, don't budge on these things. Stick to your guns. Like, these are very important things. So we didn't budge. Now it came back and we're working through them. There are challenges that can be solved. But certainly, I guess the real lesson is like, do not rush it. Like, don't get pushed into a deal where you're going to cost yourself or your investors millions. Take your time and do it right.
especially coming into the environment that we're going to be coming into soon, right? Because these brokers are used to like closing all these deals and getting all the
Fast.
paychecks
Right.
and like earning, right? But that's not going to be the environment coming up, right? So now they're struggling. They have to get paid. And so
They're
like
gonna
even the
push you.
broker that we're working with now, like super pushy, like he wants it closed today. And we're like,
Nope.
nope.
Yeah. And just for like, I'm sure, I don't know in residential, like if phase ones are any kind of common thing, but in commercial, we always do what's called a phase 1, where they look at the history of the property, they make sure there wasn't, underground storage tanks with oil that were buried 40 years ago that have now been leaking for 20 years. And now you're gonna have to clean up the dirt. And there's just a limitless cost to clean up all these things. And so in commercial, when we look at a property, one of the first things we do is order what's called a phase 1, where they assess all that and they tell us, hey, there's a concern here. We think there was an underground storage tank and you're gonna have to look into that. So make sure that we buy a property that's clean, but also make sure that when we do buy that property and add the value, that at some point we can go and sell that to somebody else and not be selling them something that has an environmental concern.
Oh, and that's kind of something we're dealing with right now too on the property we have under contract. So we had a phase 1. The condition of the underground
Tank.
gas tank is unknown. So
Wow.
I mean, but it's a 6-acre property. So I mean, you can go around and try to find it. You can poke holes in the dirt, you can dig it up, you can
We don't know.
have what Trump radar, whatever.
Yeah, ground
To
penetrating
try to
radar.
find it. But if they don't find it, and then later, our concern is that if we want to dig up the dirt to put another building, right? And we find the tank and there's an issue and it's leaking, now we have a real problem.
The property
Now-
can't get rid of until we clean up
Yeah.
the dirt.
Till we
Right.
clean it, that's gonna be an us issue, not a buyer issue. So phase 1, phase 2, super important.
But it's a fun game. Like it's a mystery. Like it's a challenge, but it's also fun, like chasing these things down and getting them answered. Like it's part of the chase. So
Part of the chase, it sounds like what one of the things that you guys are really digging into is not just the underwriting at this point. This is you do the initial underwriting, the numbers make sense. Now you're doing the due diligence process. And this is a part of the due diligence is a lot of this is where you find the unknowns, right? Like you said, the mysteries of the things of trying to figure out what's going on. Yeah, so you do a phase 1, you figure out a couple things, you hear the backstory. This is where, like, if people are listening to this that are in that process, what's another, like, just a cool takeaway that you would say, okay, cool, this is something else. When you do your phase 1, do this. What's another step that you say, you know what, this has been also something that was very helpful for us to do?
So many aspects of commercial real estate. I mean, we
bank statements.
trying to even get that piece of property under contract,
Yeah.
we learned that you need to find out tax status, right?
Oh,
Have
yeah,
people
that
been
was a
paying
fun
their,
one.
their tax bills? Because if they hadn't, we had a piece of property that we were communicating with,
Accepted offer.
accepted offer, and we were gonna close on it, and we found out the next day that it got
Sold at tax
auctioned off at
auction.
tax auction.
And the listing agent
Wow.
didn't know it. I mean, honestly, like that was a lesson we learned. Like, all right, first thing, if we're gonna put an offer, let's make sure they don't owe a whole bunch of back taxes, and
Yep.
it's not gonna get auctioned off from under us and sell at a third of what we offered. Because that was
Wow.
so
That's
like,
awesome. I've actually had that happen in a single family. I mean, I'm talking, we contracted it on a Friday, and I'm like, I think it was a Friday. It was Friday or Thursday before the taxes, which is the Tuesday. The auction. And next thing you know, this thing is like already sold. Someone's calling me Tuesday afternoon, and I'm going, how did this even happen? And the seller knew it, right? I mean, the seller knows the whole time, hey, this is what's going on, and you know the details. So that's the funny part about all of this is there's a lot of the stuff you just don't know, and you just have to learn. And one of the things that
Learn it along the way, but I think that it's so important, and that's what we have done well, is that we keep track of all the lessons that we've learned, and we go back. We went yesterday, we went through the list. We're like, where are we messing up? Like, we messed up the last time. Let's go through the list. What are we forgetting?
Okay. This is a major one. And I'm just thinking about this now. We get into this, we got into commercial, we get a deal, you get real excited, and you let your feet off the gas on other things you're working on because you get so excited and so focused on this one thing. Don't do that.
One deal.
Like you will look.
One dealitis.
Yeah, you look at one deal and you think this is it, we're going to do it, and you let off the gas, and you're going to look at a lot of deals that you ultimately are going to walk away from. Like, you need to walk away from the majority of deals.
right.
And so
it's like, what, you close like every one
out of 10,
30,
one out of 20.
54?
Yeah, it's so, don't let up when you get really excited about a property. Like, we're sure that it's the best property ever someday. But make sure you don't let up on the gas. And for goodness sakes, like, contact for us, what we didn't do on the last deal that we didn't close is we didn't talk to our leasing agents to confirm what our lease numbers should have been for that market. We should have done that before we even put it on the contract. And instead, we waited too long. We're a decent way into our due diligence period, and we ran out of time. And we weren't confident on the numbers, and so we didn't want to close without being confident that we could actually get the lease rates we
Not
wanted.
not confident. The bank wasn't confident.
Yeah.
So we couldn't get the financing.
Yeah.
Like,
So, make sure you do these things on day one or before day one of your due diligence period. Because 90 days or 60 days or 120 days always seems like a long time, but it's over like that.
Right.
So
this is one of the cool things that we talk about is we have, and it's funny because this is real estate, and you hear some people say no one ever got really wealthy, or no one created a lot of wealth by doing 50 things at once or having 3 different things going on, and they normally just stay focused on one thing. Well, real estate investing, guys, is the one thing. If that's what you want to do in real estate investing, focus on this one thing. There's other asset classes, there's other strategies, there's other things within this one thing. And one of the things that I hear you guys saying is like the whole part of don't put your foot off the gas and keep going is learning how to have multiple things going on at once. This is a challenge for many people. This is why you would like to have a team member or someone who's great at doing some form of operations, or someone who's already gone through some of this. This is also one of the reasons why we do this podcast, to help people that might have properties, send them our way. Let me help you do diligence. I can run through the numbers pretty quick. This is just how it goes. Save you some time. Or, hey, look, we're going to pay you a finder's fee, or we'll pay you a JV fee, or we'll have you on as an LP partner so you can watch and see how this stuff. And we have good friends that do that all throughout the nation. It's like, I just want to be part of the process so I can see what's going on, to see where I fit, because that's kind of the key, right? Like, where do I fit? What's the one part that I can, you have someone who might be retired, or they could just be making phone calls, or they have contacts in a certain city, and you're going, hey, all I want you to do is make all those contacts for us and just keep on making those phone calls. Find out where we can find the leasing agent, or the top leasing agent, or whatever, with the tenants, or maybe county planners, stuff like that. That is the cool part about commercial real estate, is that it takes many members. You're not giving equity on every single deal you're doing. Sometimes you're just building relationships with people. But that's one of the key things. And so I don't want to take up all you guys' day. I know you guys have a busy day with, like, I saw the whole bank statement thing. So you're going to have to do a lot today.
I can't do
What's a good takeaway for someone who's just getting started? What is something that you would advise them to get going and doing?
Don't be a
jump
secret.
in,
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
jump in, do it.
Just go for it.
y-
It's scary.
Is it a risk? Yes. Yeah. Is it scary? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the reward is so worth it.
Yeah.
It has changed my life personally. I just turned 40, and
Woo!
where I was today without real estate.
And I think that really is the truth. Like she pushed me into my first like residential flip, and after I was done, even though it was like a nightmare, like we learned all the lessons, but we still made great money.
Made money.
But we learned all the lessons with thousands before we, you know, had to
Did it
learn them
with
with millions.
Yep.
And so definitely jump in. But I think the other pieces, our friend Kevin says this all the time, Gabe. Don't be a secret agent. Like tell everybody what you're up to. Like tell everybody, I'm looking for commercial buildings. I'm looking for industrial buildings. I'm trying to find self-storage. You know, there's so many
We talk
people
to
out there.
everybody. We will go sit at restaurants and bars and we will talk to everybody. And we have met so many great
So many
contacts
people.
by doing that.
Just by being loud in a bar. I don't know if that
So
was
for those who don't know, the idea of social media marketing. So Brad likes to do the tiki bar marketing. We're going to just call it that. All right.
tiki bar marketing. Yeah, that's right.
Tiki bar marketing. And it works for him really well.
I can make great tiki drinks as well in case, you know.
No, you can.
Oh, well, it's a fun time. Like if you haven't been, you should definitely go.
It
So,
is a fun time.
And
All right, guys. We thank you so much, guys, for those who are listening
Gabe.
and want to get a hold of Brad and Heather. What is the best way for them to get a hold of you guys?
We're gonna put it in the chat right now.
Okay, but go ahead and say it because I'll put it on the show notes later.
Brad at falconcommercialassets.com and Heather at falconcommercialassets.com.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah,
So
that's
if you
awesome.
guys have any questions, and are you guys in any social media or anything like that? I know you're on Facebook, Heather.
We're on Facebook.
Yeah, definitely message Heather on social media because I'm not going to check it.
Yeah, message with Heather.
You message
She's
me,
good
I'm
at
going to start sending you memes and it will have nothing to do with it.
He has a
I'll put-
very unique
I'll
sense of
put
humor
them
that you will be able to listen to. You'll get to know him really well.
That's
All right,
right.
guys, we appreciate it. Have a good, successful real estate career, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.
See you, Gabe.
See you soon. Bye.